Adams Archive.
In Miami, there was hundreds, what looked like, of cops in Miami responding to a call, allegedly, about children fighting each other with sticks and fireworks. And I think the number that I saw was 4 kids or young adults fighting each other with sticks. And you look at the videos of this, and there was at least 85 cop cars lined. I've never seen anything like it in my life. Lined down the road to respond to this call about 4 children fighting with sticks and fireworks inside of a mall. That seems weird. But there was reports coming out afterwards of individuals who were being interviewed because there was no footage of these kids fighting with sticks. There was no footage of the fireworks being shut off inside of this mall, which is weird because if you have that much of a police presence, first of all, why do you have 70 cop cars? So you can't imagine how many cops were actually there, but 70 cop cars lined up all the way down the street just to respond to a call about 4 kids fighting each other with sticks. Not machine guns, not Tommy guns, not RPGs, no, sticks. Okay, so weird. And there's no footage about it. And you go into any tropical smoothie and you'll see that there's a video somewhere on TikTok of a Karen yelling at a tropical smoothie manager somewhere. Like, if this was the case and it warranted this type of response, why not have video evidence of this? But there were people who came out from this Miami mall, allegedly, and said that the reason that there was such a large presence there was that because there was a large amount of shadowy aliens chasing down people in the mall that were reportedly 8 to 10 feet tall. Now, this is going to lead us into our deep dive for this week, which is about the Nephilim, which is the ancient biblical beings, which were allegedly very tall and very strong and descendants of God and man. But we'll get into that deep dive in a minute. Whether or not I believe this is the case is another story. Because it seems to me like, hey, if there's 8 to 10, if I think there's going to be footage of 14-year-olds fighting with sticks, I definitely think there's going to be footage of 8 to 10 foot tall beings chasing people down in a shopping mall. Unless there was some sort of Men in Black, memory stick that erases everybody's memories and their phone footage from the iCloud. I don't know. I just don't believe that probably either. Right? There's probably going to be footage that comes out about that, either which way. So the weird thing is that we still don't really have the full narrative from inside or outside from the police that were there of what actually happened within this mall. But the reports that came out from within and people who claimed to have been inside of this mall at the time that this happened was that there were shadow-like alien figures chasing people down. So this comes from CBS News, Miami. And here's the article. It says a large brawl between teenagers caused chaos at Bayside Marketplace in downtown Miami on Monday night. However, social media users claimed that what ensued then was much more extraterrestrial. As the fight drew a heavy police presence to the area that evening, rumors quickly spread around Twitter and other social media platforms suggesting that police weren't there to handle a group of rowdy teens, but rather 9 or 8 to 10 foot tall shadow aliens. According to an amateur video posted online, there was moments when a big creature could be seen in plain sight standing in front of the entrance to the shopping mall, causing many online conspiracists. I like that. Online conspiracists. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm a conspiracist to post their takes on exactly what happened that Monday night. And of course, the memes came flooding in as well. So here is the video of the amount of cop cars that were there. And I'll share this with you if you're on YouTube. Here it is. Let's watch this video. Here's the actual, and we'll just kind of skip around so that we get to the part where you see the unbelievable amount of police officers that were actually here on site. If it'll load for us. Here we go. I'll turn the footage off or the sound off for you guys. So if you're on the podcast, it doesn't blast your ears. Just like that. So it's panning. And as it's panning, you see down the road of this side street in front of the mall. Oh, I guess every time I go to turn the sound off. It's also pausing it. Here we go. Let's just do this. There we go. It's panning and there's 10, 20, 30, 50, 70, like so many cop cars lined all the way down this whole road. So many cop cars. So let's go on to the next part here. I don't know if the rumors about the aliens in the Miami Mall are real, but I do know I never seen this many police in one place, said one ex-user. Wow, thank you for your feedback. Has some meme videos. Everybody has cell phones. Nobody has an up-close video of the 8 to 10 foot aliens at the mall. Another user posted. Yeah, good point. Me greeting the aliens at the mall isn't just some memes. All right. So, I don't know what's going on here. I do know that there's a increasing amount of conversation surrounding beings, surrounding aliens, surrounding spiritual beings, surrounding, how many times have we heard about aliens over the last year? It is absolutely ramping up in the public psyche, which to me is priming, right? I think we're being primed. I think we're being primed for some sort of catastrophe event, whether you want to call it Project Bluebeam or whether there actually is going to have something that ends up coming out that is real, and they're priming us for that thing potentially. But I do believe we're being primed for this situation. You want to go back to the most, publicized alien events over the last 6 months, let's say. There was the woman on the plane. That motherfucker right back there is not real. and remember her, right? That was priming, right? I think, whether she was a part of it or not, whatever. But I do think that there are certain news entities and algorithms from social medias that can take a video like that and either do one of two things. They can suppress it, or they can add fuel to the fire. They can decide that they're going to give it 50 million views. They make those decisions, right? So when they decide whether to suppress a video or amplify it, you should pay attention as to why, right? Maybe that's what happened, and maybe she was drunk and maybe nothing happened. But still, that video was allowed to circulate the way that it did through social media and then through news organizations. So whether or not that was, it doesn't have to be intentional. She doesn't have to be an actress. It doesn't have to be this crazy conspiracy to happen. Maybe she was drunk on a plane and took a Valium when she shouldn't have, or a Xanax, and then drank too much and she saw something weird and she was all whatever, messed up. And now she's, a living meme for the rest of her life. But so there was that event, the first one that set it off a little bit. Right, there's been all the Senate hearings and stuff like that too, but let's not even talk about those. Let's talk about the social media aspect. Then there was the video footage of somebody in their backyard who called the cops on exactly what's being reported here, an 8 to 10 foot tall being in their backyard that they allegedly found on their security footage. Interesting. And now, another situation that's circulating like crazy is the fact that there was these 8 to 10 foot tall spiritual shadowy beings inside of this mall. And that's why the police showed up in this way. So I absolutely believe we're being primed in some way, shape, or form. If you want to go back and look at done a whole episode on Project Bluebeam, I'll give you a synopsis. Project Bluebeam is essentially the idea that our government is going to cause some sort of catastrophic illusion that makes it seem as if aliens are attacking us to bring on one world government to fight it off. Okay? Which, is interesting. I'm reading a book right now that's actually going to become a Netflix series that I would highly recommend, which is The Three Body Problem, which is a Chinese book. It's a 3-part fiction sci-fi book that you can read, and I highly recommend it. It's beautifully written. It's really well done. It's really interesting. It brings up some philosophical conversations. It jumps all through these beautiful timelines, and there's so many well done elements to it. I would highly recommend it. The 3-Body Problem, and then The Dark Forest, and then Death's End is the 3-part series of this book series. But it's actually going to be a Netflix series that comes out. Although from the trailer of the Netflix series, I'm a little disappointed because I'm a big fan of this book that I'm reading. I'm on the 3rd one right now. I'm about, 25% through it. But They're not super light books, but again, if you read, go read it, and if you don't read, maybe go read the first one because it's going to get on Netflix here in March. And but it looked like in the trailer they kind of butchered it. There was a Chinese version of it where it seemed like they were much more aligned with the way the book was written, and then the Americanized version of it looks like they took a lot of liberties that they shouldn't have taken, and it's done by the same people that did Game of Thrones, so it's obviously going to be pushed like crazy. And it's coming in March, I think. So if you have the time, grab The Three Body Problem. Highly recommend it. I think you would like it. I've enjoyed it. It's the first sci-fi book I've ever really read, but it's been a really fun journey for myself. So I think you'd like it too. And if you care, it's the person who wrote the foreword for it, maybe not the foreword, but just I wrote a review for it that's on the very front of it, is Barack Obama, which is like the most random shit ever. Anyways, so that's where I believe. I believe we're being primed. I believe this is being allowed to circulate this way. I think that they probably wanted to pump up the conspiracy theorists just the same way they did with Q, right? They're going to infiltrate the communities and start to put stuff on Reddit and put the videos out there and spark all this conversation so that eventually something's going to happen, right? We look back at COVID, and even back in 2000 and I don't remember the date, but Bill Gates did a speech on viruses and how it's going to cause this nationwide pandemic. And you look at the WHO or something wrote gosh, I can't remember the document now, but you can go back. I've talked about it before. There was a document written on the direct response by this whatever government organization was, might have been the NIH, about how to deal with a coronavirus if it just so happened to break out. And it was like 2 years prior. And it outlined exactly basically how they approached this COVID situation. So whatever. But I think that was priming, and I think this is priming now, and I think something will happen. This is all leading up to something, and whether it's this year or next year, the reason that, and if you listen to my last podcast, and I don't want to go on too many side tangents here, so let's just keep this the mainstream. I believe we're being primed. I believe that this is happening intentionally. I believe it's being allowed to circulate the way that it is right now because there's going to be something that happens, whether it's a trove of information that they're just getting us ready to like lull us to sleep about aliens until they actually tell us, yeah, they're real. And hey, we're in contact with them. And we've been in contact with them for over 100 years. And guess how you got internet? And guess how you got that cell phone that you can FaceTime your grandma 6 fucking million miles away from you and get instantaneous access to all the information you could ever want at will and watch midget porn before you go to bed, whatever it is that you do, you use the internet for, and play video games and all the technology that has come out from humans over the last 100 years. You look at the trajectory that we were on for technology, the 1,000 years prior was nowhere near the amount of technology that we've come out with in the last 100 years, let's say 100 years. Is unbelievable. And so I firmly believe that the reason that we have all the technology we have, internet, cell phones, basically almost anything and everything that's not a physically tangible, if it's a frequency that goes through the air, like Nikola Tesla stuff, right? I believe that it is not of this world. I believe that we are gaining technology tips from some other entity that was either here before us or came from somewhere else. And you can call me crazy if you want to, but I just don't believe you. You're going to tell me that internet was designed by some random idiot like me in a basement by himself, or some 5 guys in a room together with a Sharpie. I don't believe you. It's not convincing to me, but it is super convincing that somebody else who had far more technology than us has been dropping little pieces of it from time to time, whether that's directly through to, what Tucker Carlson will come out and say in just a minute here when we watch his video, is that they're in contact with these beings. They've been in contact with these beings. These beings have been here. They've always been here. And he believes they're spiritual beings. We'll get into that in a minute. But anyways, that's the story of them all. That's my beliefs on that. And this is where I think it's going. I think that there will be some precipice of information that's released or some event. It's going to be information or an event. And I guess the information would be an event in and of itself if you've been following this long enough. But I absolutely believe there's going to be a this happened big precipice that all of this priming has been about for so long. We're being told aliens this and aliens that, and UFOs are real, and they go into the water, and this and that, and, yeah. And they basically, I heard Joe Rogan talk about this way, is like they've made being interested in aliens and aliens being released as like boring now, that nobody really even seems to care. Like it's so wild to see the way that it's been done. It's like they've lulled everybody to sleep by making it 1,500-page Senate hearings, and like they just. But when you were growing up in the 90s, you probably thought it was going to be some big saucer just like over top of your town, and then it goes over the farm, and up goes a cow from like a big blue beam of light. That was what we all thought it was going to be. And it's not going to be that. It's not Independence Day. Or maybe it fucking will be, which is probably the most terrifying of the events, right? But anyways, that's where I think it's going. So that brings us to our next conversation, which is what Tucker Carlson has talked about, because he doesn't believe these things are from another world. He believes that they're an ancient spiritual civilization that has always been here. And there's good forces and bad forces within them, almost like angels and demons. And he doesn't address that directly. He says, I don't know. I'm not going to make any leaps on this. And honestly, it doesn't really matter, like me personally. If they're ancient civilizations that are spiritual beings, that are biblical, our longest texts of knowledge have been passing us information about forever, whether you call it a demon or whether you call it an angel or whether you call it a Nephilim or a this or that or whatever, it doesn't the sound that you make about your mouth about it doesn't really matter to me as much as the concept, which I find to be super interesting.